All right, here we are 2 weeks later. See, I've done a lot of work on her. First thing I did was took out all the crap that was over here that had all grown in what used to be my carpet plant. Most of them were covered in algae. Threw them away. There's a couple still over here that I'd kept. These tall ones here, this was my carpeting plant at one point. They had all just beautifully carpeted, about 3 to 5 centimeters of carpeting. But then when I was gone, they just went nuts. So, took them all out, threw them out. Took out the wood here, dipped that in peroxide, and then scrubbed it with steel wool. Then soaked it for a couple of days before putting it back in and reattaching the plants. The grass that I was growing down here, it had all died. You know, it was covered in blackbeard algae. It had just choked it right off. So I went online and I found this. Now this, I do not believe really is an aquarium plant. As a matter of fact, I'm 100% sure. But it looks pretty damn good after the work I did to it. Ordered it online. It only cost me $30, but this stuff clearly grows outside. It was just infested with leaves, sticks, pine needles, even a pine cone I found in this stuff. So it took a while to clean it out. I did complain to the supplier, but they insisted it would grow. And yeah, it is growing with the CO2 and the lights on it. I do get a little purling on her, but I think it does look pretty good. Back in behind it, you can see some darker green. That's phoenix moss. I had it growing on the rocks, and you see like a little tufts there, but it didn't work. I thought it would look like trees growing on the mountains. It didn't work. So I hacked it all off, bagged it all up, put it in the other aquarium, and then put it down in the background. Hopefully it'll grow up. I like the effect. It's a little bit darker, so you get the lighter green in the front and the darker green in front of the mountains. I think it works. Now the mountains themselves, you remember all those rocks were just covered in blackbeard algae. Well, 2 weeks later, and if you look close, you can see little black dots. That's all that's left. Somebody comes over and sees my aquarium, they don't notice it. They just think it's part of the rocks. I notice it. You notice it. But that's it. It's really cut back. Now to do that, I emptied the tank. I took my sprayer here. There's this guy. Fill this puppy up with half peroxide and half water and just sprayed the heck out of all the rocks. I did cover all the moss, the plants that I didn't take out, all that moss there over the waterfall. Took it all, I covered it up with plastic bags and saran wrap. Sprayed her down, then filled the tank back up and just let it sit. And it did die. That didn't turn pink like a lot of people said. It did turn a little more lighter gray. I also added, there's a couple of them right here. You can see, those are, I believe, SEAs, Siamese algae eaters. There's 4 of them in there, 3 that size, and then Mama, the big one. I had them from another time. I had ordered some autosinkless, and they'd sent the wrong stuff. Or my wife ordered the wrong stuff. We won't go there. Anyway, I had them in the turtle tank, and I put them in here. They started eating at it. Plus, of course, there's a lot of shrimp in here. They went to work on the dead algae. And then something I've never heard mentioned before turned out very helpful, and that is, of course, now that I want them, I can't find them. Doesn't seem to be there anywhere. One of you guys might spot them. Anyway, it's a nerite snail. I put one nerite snail in here that I'd had in another aquarium. And he went over to these 2 rocks right here. And in a day and a half, he had pretty much cleared it off. I mean, I know on the camera, you really can't see any algae on it. I can see a few black dots. But that's it. He just went to town. Never heard any other videos talk about nerite snails for blackbeard algae. I'm not saying they'll eat it, but they certainly eat the dead blackbeard algae. I mean, he just cleaned house on these tanks, on this tank. Just one nerite. And him with the SEAs and the peroxide treatment, and 2 weeks later, you got to look for it. Anybody comes over, they're not going to see, and they don't see anything. So quite happy with how this has turned out with the new not substrate, carpeting plant. It took a lot of work, but it seems to be worth it, especially for $30 to cover the whole thing immediately. And yeah, there you go.